Problem 22-38, Part 3. So here for requirement 3, we have prepare Selma Batting Company's direct materials budget, direct labor budget, and manufacturing overhead budget for the first quarter of 2026 around the predetermined overhead allocation rate to 2 decimal places. The overhead allocation base is direct labor hours. So here we have begin by preparing the direct materials budget, which is what we will be working on in this video. So now we know from the requirement to how many budgeted bats we need to produce here. So for the youth bats, that's 1,300. For adult bats, that's 2,700. And that gives us a total of 4,000 bats that we need to produce. So when we come down here, that's going to be our first field. So that's going to be budgeted bats to be produced. So again, we had 1,300 youth and 2,700 adult. So we'll go ahead and input those for a total of 4,000. So now that we know we need to produce 4,000 bats, we need to figure out how much direct material goes into each of those. So, and that direct material is wood. So they're measuring that here in ounces. So first we're going to want to open our other data here and go to D. So direct material requirements are 32 ounces of wood per youth bat and 40 ounces of wood per adult bat. So that is what they're asking for here for direct materials per bat in ounces. So that's going to be 32 for youth and 40 ounces per bat for adult bat. So now they want to know the direct materials needed for production. So that is going to be the budgeted bats to be produced times that direct materials per bat in ounces. So for the first one, that's going to be 1,300 times 32. So let's get our calculator out and see what that number comes to. And that is 41,600 ounces of direct materials needed for production of youth bats. We'll go ahead and enter that in. And then we're going to move on to the adult bats here. So again, 2,700 budgeted bats to be produced times 40 ounces of direct materials per bat. So we're going to clear this out and enter that into our calculator. And that is going to give us 108,000 ounces of materials needed for production for all of those bats for the adult bats there. So then here we have direct materials needed for production, the total. So we're going to add the youth bats in ounces that we need and the adult bats in ounces. So that is going to give us a total of 149,600. But now we don't want to leave our ending inventory of direct materials empty, so we need to have and factor in the desired direct materials and ending inventory in ounces. So we'll go ahead and input that, desired direct materials and inventory in ounces, and that is given to us here in F in the other data. So we have desired ending raw materials inventory is 44,000 ounces. Indirect materials are insignificant and not considered for budgeting purposes here. So we will input 44,000. And since we are adding these desired direct materials and ending inventory to the materials needed for production, that's going to give us that total direct materials needed. So we'll go ahead and add 149,600 to 44,000. And that is going to give us a total of 193,600 for the total direct materials needed. So now for this field, we need to subtract out the beginning balance in inventory. So that's going to be this direct materials in beginning inventory in ounces. Since we already have some direct materials likely sitting in our beginning inventory. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. It looks like here for E, we have raw materials inventory on December 31st, 2025. So the end of last quarter and the beginning of this quarter, that's implied, consists of 44,000 ounces of wood at 25 cents per ounce. So that's going to be this number in ounces, so it's 44,000. So now we are going to take this amount we need, this 193,600 of direct materials needed, and we're going to subtract out this beginning balance of 44,000 here. So you can see that it says less right here. So it's between these two numbers for the budgeted purchases of direct materials. So we can do some quick math there. That is going to be 149,600. And you'll notice there is a coincidence here that the raw materials inventory here is 44,000 ounces at the beginning of the period, and that their desired is the 44,000 left over. That's not always the case, just a coincidence that the numbers are the same here. So now they're asking for direct materials cost per ounce, and that is given to us here in E. So we have that raw materials inventory consisting of the 44,000 ounces of wood at 25 cents per ounce. So that's going to be about 25 cents. And then they're going to want us to do a little bit more math and then get our budgeted cost of direct materials finally here at the end. So that is going to be this budgeted purchases of direct materials multiplied by the direct materials cost per ounce to get that total cost. So we can throw that in the calculator here for practice and multiply it by 25 cents per ounce. And that is going to give us 37,400 for the budgeted cost of direct materials. So we'll go ahead and enter that in. So again, this 37,400, this is the budget amount we're going to probably have to spend in raw materials so that we can produce those 4,000 bats at the beginning of this problem. So next up in the next video, we'll do the direct labor budget. So let's go ahead and check our answer. Excellent.